Hello again, this is Dr. Bones here with Instructor Beats with our Multiplying Fractions playlist video number 6. Let's follow our raptor in and see what we can discover today as we become fractionologists and paleontologists. Our objective today I will multiply a mixed number by a fraction by turning the mixed number into an improper fraction and multiplying across. So this is another lesson that builds on our shortcut we learned last lesson on how to multiply fractions times fractions. So let's get into it. The main skill you need to know how to today is a 4th grade skill on how to turn a mixed number into an improper fraction. And so we are going to use what I like to call the shuffle. We're going to multiply and then add. 4 times 3 is 12. Plus 2 is 14. Your denominator stays the same. And so your improper fraction that is equivalent to 4 2/3 is 14 thirds. These are the exact same thing, just a different way to write it. So if you can do that last problem, and as our dinosaur friend says, can you solve this? If you can solve this, then today will be very, very easy. 3/5 times 2/4, you just simply multiply across and you get 6/20. When you simplify that, you get 3/10. And if you want to be really fancy, you could write that answer as a decimal, but all of these are equivalent. We're going to combine those two skills into one awesome skill today. So I have 2/6 times 3 2/3, or maybe the word problem would say 2/6 of 3 2/3 dinosaur eggs are green. And we are trying to find out what dinosaur answer is inside our variable egg. So let's try to crack it. I know my steps yesterday said if I have a whole number or mixed number, I want to turn it into an improper fraction. So 2/6 is already a fraction. When I do my shuffle right here, I see that 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11, and my denominator stays the same. So now I have taken my mixed number and turned it into an improper fraction. Now all we have to do is multiply across, just like we did yesterday, and my answer is 22/18. I want to make sure, because this is an improper fraction, that I turn it into a mixed number again. So I see that I'm going to take out a big 1 of 18/18 using my big 1 number bonds. That leaves me with 4, and my denominator would be 18. So my answer when I decompose this would be 1 whole and 4/18. Now, I can also simplify that into 1 2/9, and that would be my final answer. Let's do this one together to find out what dinosaur variable number is inside my brown egg. So here I have 6 1/8. I know that my steps told me I need to turn this into an improper fraction. So 6 times 8 would be 48, plus 1 is 49, and my denominator stays the same. Here I have 2/5, and now all I need to do is multiply across. So I know that my denominator is 40. I'm not going to try to do 49 times 2 in my head because I might make a mistake, and my answer is 98. I see here that this is an improper fraction, so I'm going to take out my big 1 number bond of 40/40. I can take out another one of 40/40, and then that leaves me with 18 left over. And so when I decompose this, I see that my answer was 2 wholes and 18/40, which you can simplify to 2 9/20. Again, you could also use the shortcut of just doing 98 divided by 40. So let's do that over here to prove that both of these ways work. But what I want you not to do is just know the shortcut and not understand why it's working. But when you really understand what this is saying, then go ahead and use the shortcut. So really this is saying 98 divided by 40, because a fraction bar is really a division sign. And so when I did that, I knew that I could do 0 here. So I multiplied, that's 9, I have 98. And just like you see down here, I have two groups of 40 that can go into 98. And when you multiply, that was 80. And then when you subtract, you have a remainder of 18, just like I had right here. So I had two whole groups with a remainder of 18, which when you write this as a mixed number is 2 wholes and 18 40ths. So you're going to get the same answer doing it either way. I want you to be able to do both, but more importantly, Dr. Bones and Dr. Geller want you to not just know what to do, but why you're doing it and why it works. So many of you are asking a very important question right now. Dr. Bones, what if it's a word problem? So let's take a look at a word problem together. So my statement here is going to say, well, my question says, how many miles had he traveled when he stopped? So my statement is going to say, he had traveled blank miles before stopping. So when I go back to identify, I'm obviously looking for anything about miles or anything he was traveling or stopping. So it says Blake is biking on a trail that is 3 1/5 miles long. That's about miles. I should circle that. He stopped to eat a snack after he had biked 2/3 of. Anytime the word of is after this fraction, I want to underline it and then look at the next words to see, do I know anything about them? And this next word says the trail, which at first you might just think is one trail, but then you remember that you've already identified that the trail is 3 1/5 miles long. So what you're doing is trying to find 2/3 of 3 1/5, and you want to know how many miles he had traveled. So I'm going to develop my plan by drawing my tape diagram, my fraction tape diagram. And I know the total of my whole trail was 3 1/5, and I had traveled, or Blake had traveled 2/3 of it. So Blake had traveled these 2/3, and then I would say that this is what is left over. Now, from here, they could ask you two questions, which is always why we label our tape diagram. They might ask you, how many miles does he have left? Or they could ask you how many miles he had traveled. That is why it's important to write your statement. And I see here that they're asking me for how many miles I traveled. So right here will be my question mark. So now, instead of trying to divide 3 1/5 into 3 groups, just like we would do with the whole number, now you can use your shortcut. You're trying to figure out what is 2/3 of 3 1/5. So you're going to do 2/3 times 16/5, because when I did my shuffle, I turned this into 16/5. And when you multiply across, you're going to get 32/15. And now you can either do your big one number bonds and take out 15/15, and then take out another 15/15, which would leave you with 2/15 left. And so your answer for your question mark is 2 wholes and 2/15. You could have also just done your shortcut 32 divided by 15 and taken the remainder and written it as a fraction. Either one is acceptable, but I always like to do this one first so you can visually see what you are doing. So if you notice, I followed my fraction rule number 2. Anything you can do with a whole number, you can also do with a fraction. So I knew I needed to develop my plan, but then instead of trying to make this really hard and split this into 3 equal groups, I just went ahead and used my shortcut of knowledge and knew that 2/3 of 3 1/5 really meant I was multiplying. So I used my knowledge to do that and made it a little bit easier on myself, but Dr. Bones did not skip the develop the plan part. That is always the most important, so you know that you aren't getting tricked in answering the wrong question, such as if they ask you how many miles were left over. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with Instructabeats, Dr. Bones, and Dr. Geller today. Please check out our songs and other videos on our YouTube channel, Instructabeats Official. Please follow us on Instagram at Instructabeats. Visit our webpage at www.instructabeats.com. And as always, please subscribe. Dr. Bones, Dr. Geller, and Instructabeats, out.